Blessed love and peace. Finishing this joint. So I was talking about the dialect. Um, Valley Girls done took over Cambridge. That's the basic gist of it. And again, the civilizational implications about how people talk, how people with authority or who presume to have authority talk, the discipline that goes within the words that are spoken, how it's spoken, what is spoken, and further. What is observed is, again, a very intense staccato, a hyper. Actually, that's actually those are some of the precursing characteristics. Like in my day, like the 2000s, 90s, 2000s, and further, there is this cultural tendency within like the elite academic circles of talking about things in the hyperbole, saying this is the most such and such, this is the best such and such ever, and it was further a social thing, but it becomes that notion of like this has to be the best in order to be valid for consideration, to be in the conversation. There's this sense of like insufficiency in what is being said in order to increase the substance and the perceived relevance or whatever is described as the most this, the most that. Now what is observed, and this is very scant kind of like observation or whatever, not scant, but it's a modest amount of observation. What is observed is that instead of saying this is the most whatever ever or the most this ever, that doesn't seem to be too frequently articulated. What is articulated is it's getting night. I don't know if that's what's happening, but yo, we're starting to see some things right now. Sometimes bus drivers say it's the first of the month. People got their check, and so they go out and get their fix. So first of the month, when bus drivers see like people on the streets just acting like out of it, that's what's attributed. This one might be like the end of the weekend. It's turning dark, but it's a little bit different than what it usually is. Anyways, and it's not the first of the month, so that don't seem to be it either. Is it? No, it's not the first of this month, or the Gregorian month when checks are issued. So it's that mentality of the psychology of how people speak, of the rhetoric. And instead of saying it explicitly, like this is the most ever, it's just an emotive way of speaking that's very intense. It's very like staccato. It's very curt, very brief sentences, and it's like people are competing to be heard, even in a social environment, in an academic environment, in a professional environment, and otherwise, jockeying for that kind of like their contribution to be registered within the conversation. And it's just like stacked upon stack of statements, and even like when making jokes or even getting to a joke, it's just like that intensity that's not relaxed, and that's the difference between the Valley Girl thing and what is observed now and it's not just here in cases like observed in people's parlance and or on the internet and otherwise. It's just, and particularly within American elitist type of upper income kind of cultural circles. So we're just speaking to that, and again, the implications when people with authority, understanding the psychology of how that vernacular, that might be one way of describing, understanding the psychology of that vernacular and the implications of that psychology when people are making decisions that are further policy oriented and directly influence the behavior of the macro. So that's what we're observing. The Valley Girls taking over Cambridge, and that is also civilizational. The technology, the culture of technology, overtaking the culture of academia, the classics, Greek, Roman civilization, in terms of the presumed ethos and even the shibboleth, in terms of like the shared references, the hidden references, and additionally. So Uh, that's that. Now we get into the raids. Raids. That's a TV commercial reference. So basically, it's a matter of this: recognizing, like in Scandinavia Viking era, there's the Vikings. They do raids. They plan it out. They do it from like local kinfolk down the river. They do it down the ocean front or whatever else. And as it's described, they're comparatively successful. They planned out, spend winters, whatever, planning, preparing, training, lifetimes training, and then go out and raid other villages, pillage, kill dudes, take slaves, women, children, gold, booty, da 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 da, and then bring it to the market, sell it at the market, bring it home and use it home or whatever else, and venture further and further out, and to the point of the land now known as England, Britannia, to Iceland, down to Deutschland, all the way around to Iberia, Mediterranean, and further. So that is the historic phenomena of raids. Now, ain't nothing unique to Scandinavia, ain't nothing unique to Vikings. It's done to Vikings, actually. There's narratives of Turks and maybe even the Ottoman Empire, but maybe not the Ottoman Empire, but others from Mediterranean, Muslim particularly, going to Scandinavia and doing raids in Scandinavia. So it's not just one particular ethnic kind of thing. Point is, that's what we can observe happening in society today, domestically. Corporate takeovers as raids, gangsters taking over blocks, corners, raids, political campaigns and elections, raids. People planning specifically do not want to join the network at this moment. Thank you very much. People, groups, political, religious, ethnic, corporate, whatever, plotting out who can we take over, who can we put a move on, whether it's corporations trying to muscle in on a competitor and try to take over a market share or a demographic, set up shop in someplace else, whether it's a political campaign, a political group trying to push a certain amount of elections and take over a municipality, set up shop, whether they're taking over like a region, all the gerrymandering and such being effectuated afterwards. But the processes of it's not genocide, it's gentrification, almost potato at some point. But the methodologies do not want to join. Serious. It's okay not to join. Potato, but just making moves and taking over blocks, taking over other spots or whatever, whether it's a rival religious group or whether it's a rival political group or otherwise. It's raids, political campaigns. It's not about the issues or whatever else. All that is bullshit. It's all a facade theater. It's about conquest and taking a bigger slice. And once having a bigger slice, then pushing an agenda through, getting it done, making it formal, and signing on the government apparatus, the formal government apparatus accordingly. The facade of legislation, everything else, of stagnation, everything else like that, that's the theater. That's the theater that keeps people like busied and whatever else. The actual business getting done is the things that are going low key, and that people are actually competing for otherwise. Even then, that's a lot of script, it's a lot of collusion and otherwise, even to get into that game, even to be on the radar, to be rated. Anyways, just recognizing contemporary society, domestically and then as a world civil domestic experience of being part of an entire collusion, but at the same time still very much chaotic. A chaotic collusion is the world, and raids all over the place in the meanwhile. So anyways, just being honest about that, being mindful about that, and being mindful about how much we get enveloped in that. It's very difficult to avoid categorically and absolutely. However, when we are honest, we can call people out on it and question what the motives are for doing certain things. And if we have suspicions about it being like for other ulterior motives, call that out and discern what the response is accordingly. And that might quiet up the solicitations for recruitment or otherwise. However, anyways, that's that. That's the Black Cream, South Africa, Zululand, Inkosa, Khaled, reference. Peace and blessings, all thanks and praise to the Most High. Blessed love and peace in Rastafari.